in southeast London, and my colleague Gregory should be joining us. He's going to join us a bit late today, hopefully in about 15 minutes. So as I said, this is the spiritual discussion program, and the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uptrushin. And every week we have a topic for discussion. The topic tonight is distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? Distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? Gregory is usually I ask the questions and Gregory answers them. So since Gregory is not here yet, I'll be answering the questions until he arrives. So I'd like to invite you to send in your questions or comments in regards to tonight's topic. As I said, it is distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? The number to contact us is our UK number. It is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can also contact us on the website where we are broadcasting. The website is blessradio1, the number 1.com. And there, if you scroll down the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. You can type in any questions or comments there. I'm now going to begin with, what is the Grail message? The Grail message in the light of truth by Uptrushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Uptrushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. the word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with seven seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we're discussing tonight is distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? And as usual, normally I would ask Gregory the meaning of the words in the topic when the meaning I've got from the dictionary. And now, of course, we have AI, artificial intelligence. Also, it's automatically, when you try to look up a meaning, AI, artificial intelligence, to give an answer. So this is a mix of these definitions of AI and the standard dictionary, you can say. Okay, so the first key word is distress. In the dictionary, it says extreme anxiety, sorrow, or pain. And so that's extreme anxiety, sorrow, or pain. What I'd like to say before I respond to that, this word distress, or any of the words we are using, it can be earthly meaning in it. There can also be a spiritual meaning in it. Because yes, you can be in extreme pain or anxiety or sorrow. Usually it can be resulting from injury or suffering, some sort of suffering. But it could be usually associated with some human tragedy, let's call it. Human meaning human beings are being distressed. That's, so it involves emotions and so on. Deep, it says extreme anxiety. This is what is sorrow or pain. So, as I say, I give this context of whether it's earthly or spiritual. Earthly, I would say we are familiar with most of these things, and then spiritual, maybe some of us are not so familiar. Spiritual, you can say almost it refers to human, although not every spiritual being is necessarily human. But I don't want to go into that right now. Let's stick to just the word spiritual on its own. What do we mean there? I will say, let's focus on the human side of it. What affects us in the heart, you can call it. Of course, these are metaphoric terms sometimes to refer to something that is not like a physical concept. These are not physical things. That's the thing about spiritual things. It's not physical. It's non-physical. You can't, for example, physical things you can measure, but spiritual things, or some of the spiritual things, are as concept you can't measure. Love, you can't measure that. So many things in that way. Patience, these are concepts as well. So it really is, in fact, you can say they are almost unlimited in a way if they're taking it in the right way. So love, it's not like, in no way can be represented by physical concepts. So I would say if we just think this way a little bit in this way, And we will go further, and things will become, let's say, hopefully more clearer as we go forward. Another word, so the topic again, dear listeners, is distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? And I just want to say, if you do wish to contact us, I forgot to remind you on that again, is you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. If you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, and that is www.blessradio1, that's the number one.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Now, the next word, keyword in our topic, distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? The next word is trauma. They have given us two meanings in their dictionary. It says the first one, a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. A personal, and the example they give, a personal trauma like the death of a child. I will say that's a reasonably good example, a good definition there. And then there's a second meaning, physical injury, which example they gave, rupture of the diaphragm caused by blunt trauma. So that is more of a medical definition. So that wouldn't be so appropriate for our type of discussion, being a spiritual program. So I will say we can leave that one out. So I can say reasonably I'm happy with that. Then the next word is will. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? Will is, dictionary says, expressing the future tense. You will regret when you get older. That's the definition they've given. Will, another meaning they give is expressing inevitable events. Accidents will happen. So yes, that's quite straightforward, I would say. So something will happen, and that's all in the future. Inevitable, it will happen. Well, that's what is meant. Yes, inevitable, will happen. So, yep, that's fair enough. The definitions are quite fine for me. I don't want to move on to the next keyword in the topic, lead, L-E-A-D, lead. So that one, I've got two definitions again in the dictionary. Cause a person or animal to go with one by holding them by hand, a halter, a rope, etc., while moving forward. That one, I would say, it's more specific to a particular sort of situation. In this case, a human being so leading the animal by holding them with a rope or something like this. So that's, I will say, not so relevant for our discussion. But this, the second one, let's see the second one, definition of the second meaning of the word lead. It's, I believe Gregory is now joining us, so let me add him. Okay, now it looks like we are back connected. So let me make sure Gregory is not there now. Need to add Gregory. Let me add Gregory.
Well, I can hear you.
Oh, you can. Okay, you're there. Somehow it's not showing me. That's very funny. Okay. According to the what I'm seeing is okay. I hope it's all fine. Dear listeners, please do get in touch with us if in case you're not hearing us. Um, I I'm not able to confirm that from my side. So please. Okay. And Gregory, you're hearing me, right? Hello, Gregory. Can you hear me?
Yes, I had to be on mute.
Ah, I see. Okay. Welcome to the show, Gregory. We started on time, and I know you couldn't join us straight away on time. That's fine. So normally I ask, how are you and how is the weather? Because I didn't say anything early yet. So please tell us how is the weather where you are and how are you?
It looks gloomy, dark, cloud. The one is fine.
Okay, good. Same here, really. It's raining, overcast. The rain has been a bit heavy, gloomy, as you say. Very, yeah, it is gloomy, really dark grey here. And I'm fine here in London. So, and let me just recap what's happened. I've introduced the topic, which is distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? And I'm going through the definitions in the dictionary of the meanings of the words in the topic. So we talked about distress, we talked about trauma, um, and I was happy pretty much with these definitions given there, at least the ones which are directly related to, uh, you could say, our spiritual topic discussion. So if we take it that way, and I did mention that there can be earthly trauma or distress or spiritual as well, and so they can be. But the main thing is to look at it from the spiritual, let's say, human um, viewpoint. So we know it's matters from which affect our, you could say, our heart. You know, so this type of, and I know we by heart we referring to a metaphorical term, but I think people know what that means. So I've read and gone through the meaning for distress, trauma, and will, and I was just going through the word lead, and the first word meaning given there, it says holding basically by hand, which is a person or animal. So I said that's not really what we're discussing here. And the second meaning for the word lead, it says be a route or means of access to a particular place or in a particular direction. And Gregory, how good is this one with regards to our topic?
It is very helpful.
Thank you. I thought so as well. I really thought it's very good there. Okay, so we'll move on to the next word, which is spiritual. In fact, I have looked up the word spiritual awakening as well, but first we'll go this one, spiritual. So the first meaning there in the dictionary, it says relating or affecting the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. What do you say to that one, Gregory?
It is difficult to describe that what is spiritual with spiritual.
Okay, yes.
This is what you had there.
Yes.
But again, it's helpful.
Yeah, they use soul as well. They've used the word soul.
Yes, so you could see there's some confusion between soul and spirit.
Okay, let's look at the second meaning. They say relating to religion or religious belief. Is that any better?
Actually, the spirit has nothing to do with religion, but the context is understandable.
Right, okay. So could you give a better definition then, Gregory, that will be more relevant for us?
When spirit is mentioned, the most obvious thing will be that of one's intuitive perceptions, because that which is of spirit communicates through one's intuitive perception. So the origin of the intuitive perception is of spirit.
Thank you very much, Gregory. It's a very key point you've made about the intuitive perception. So again, some people may not be aware what is intuitive perception, but all of these things we will explore further. Although I think people know intuition quite well. So, but we will just go into all these matters, as we go further in the show. So next word is awakening. And in the dictionary, we've got two meanings. First one, an act of waking from sleep. Is this any good for us, Gregory?
Yourself knows that these are just description. Awakening from sleep. Well, these are pointers, but they don't give the essential.
Okay, let's look at the second meaning. An act or moment of becoming suddenly aware of something. What about this one?
The awareness is precise. Yes.
Good. Now, I mentioned earlier to the listeners, some of this, now there's AI, artificial intelligence, very active. So when you look up in the internet some definition, AI produces an answer. So rather than just the Google or whatever search engine you want to use. So this one, I put the two words together, spiritual awakening, and I Googled it, and I found this one, which is from AI actually. It says a spiritual awakening is a state of consciousness that can involve a sense of awareness of a new reality and a deeper understanding of oneself. It can also involve a focus on finding the purpose of life and questioning reality. What do you say about this one, Gregory?
First, you must understand that AI goes about to collate what is there, not what is not there, and then filters them with some parameters, and that's how it came to that definition. So AI didn't just pick these things from nowhere. It picked it from definitions which are available, put them together, and using a framework, and that is what you have, which to a large extent is a pointer.
Right. And is it helpful when you say pointer? Is it quite?
Yeah, it is helpful.
Yes, I thought so. I thought so as well, because it's not just the meaning of a word; it's more giving a concept now. So thank you. Then okay, so that's our topic we are discussing: distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? Now, how I came about this topic tonight, I'm sure anybody listening to the news will be aware of so many things where there's situations of distress and trauma. It can be personal, it can be what's happening in the world. Obviously, the general people, and from the news, we are hearing a lot of events going on, troubling events. And in one of such events, there was some news article where I saw, I used that gave me the inspiration for this topic tonight, trauma and distress, or distress and trauma. This article particularly was on for the Ukraine-Russian war, where some Ukrainian people are suffering this trauma. And it started, just to give a little brief story of it, it was the widows of the Ukrainian civilians who turned into soldiers to fight, and then these wives of their husbands had gone to the war, and unfortunately they lost their life within maybe 6 months of being soldiers. So of course there's a number of such people, and obviously the war has gone on for some time. So the point is that many, if I can say, people have suffered. So there's people who have died, and then families connected with those people who have died have been affected, and they're feeling the trauma, being lonely and even wondering what is the future, Uh, and of course, the war is still not over, so that's another stress or trouble that people are facing. Of course, it's not exclusively only happening in Ukraine or even Russia, but we know in other parts of the world things are happening, not the same necessarily, but people are suffering this trauma. Now, so let me just read. This was the question I made from the article. Many people in the world are currently facing consequences of terrible tragedies of war. The widows and mothers feel the loss of their loved ones who have fallen. They find it hard to cope and continue to weep, and find it difficult to move on and live with joy again. Many such women in Ukraine came together in a group called Alive, where they express their feelings, seek solace and closure by painting and writing their stories of love. Many say they came back to life. So my question was from this story was, is this a good therapy to recover from this trauma? Yes, Gregory, is this way one? Of course, there are many other ways, I'm sure, but this was one way that they were using as a therapy to recover from this trauma. Oh, Gregory, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I'm not just allowing you to finish. Whether it's...
Thank you. Yes.
The question one must always consider most of the time is, where is there no challenge? All challenges, whether they be that of trauma, of sorrow, or of happiness, it all depends how one manages these challenges. Some of these challenges help to wrap or to knock on the deeper consciousness of man. If these challenges help to open up the spirit such that the personality, which is of spirit, can perceive things differently in a holistic manner, then you will find that particular challenge is of benefit to the human spirit. If, however, that particular challenge, be it happiness or sorrow, does not touch on the inner core of man, then it seems that challenge, be it sorrow or joy or happiness, that particular challenge is basically wasted. For that which we are able to perceive with our physical body, which is of flesh and blood, tied to the five senses, or these five senses tied to it, these are only channels that send signals to the brain, and from the brain through the back brain to the solar plexus, and then to the spirit. So if these signals of what the personality has experienced is able to resonate in the spirit, then the spirit will use that as gain. It will use it as gain, as you have in the case of music most of the time, or as you have in the case of sorrow. For with sorrow, depending on the personality, many become pensive and reflect differently. But there are others who engage in revenge. There are others who go about it very differently. Wishing to kill. The question you must ask yourself, is that a way forward? For it is what is going to benefit the individual, not only in the earthly terms, but also in the spiritual terms. For that which is earthly, when the time comes, the body of flesh and blood is dropped. It is the experiences that the human personality, which human personality is struggling to be alive as such. It is those experiences that it takes along. So it is the spirit that benefits or does not benefit, depending on the attitude that the human personality displayed in the face of these challenges, be they sorrow or joy.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer. This point you made about attitude, what is the attitude of in the face of this distress or joy or sorrow, as you said. I've got some more questions on this point, actually, but before I do ask them, I want to let the listeners know that this is Bless Radio, or more correctly, I should say blessradio1.com, and this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uprushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And as I said, this is a spiritual discussion program, and we are broadcasting on. No, before I say that, I just want to say the topic we are discussing tonight. Actually, the topic we're discussing is distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you are outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And as I've mentioned, we are on broadcasting on blessradio1.com, the number 1 there. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, live stream. That is for the live show, which we broadcast on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can also listen to a recording of this show the next day, again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, Grail message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? And of course, you can listen to the recordings of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's Zeno dot FM / Bless Radio 1. Again, the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, I wanted to. I'm sort of enjoying looking at AI. I know it's artificial intelligence, not spiritual intelligence. However, it seems to be a good tool with coming up with answers, but we can investigate these answers. And the reason I'm interested in it, I asked it spiritual cause of distress. And this is what it came up with a number of sort of causes, you can say. Spiritual distress can be caused by a number of factors, including unresolved needs and questions. A person may experience spiritual distress if they're unable to find meaning or purpose in their life, or if they have unresolved questions, such as, why is this happening? So, Gregory, that's a very common question when people are suffering, especially when they're suffering, because nobody seems to ask a question when they're happy and having good things. But when they're suffering, they say, why is this happening to me? And they don't know what is the cause. They believe there should be a cause. So, or they think there should be a cause. So that seems to relate, Gregory, to the topic for tonight. Trauma, distress and trauma, will it lead to spiritual awakening? So is that, Gregory, when such things happen to people with suffering, and let's call it distress, we are saying, is it the people are unable to, let's say, cope with it? Is it because they have, I don't know, unexplained or unresolved questions about why is this happening?
The first question one must consider, when such things arise, why is this happening? Is that question basically on a material level? For if that which is material is very well with them, would they have asked such a question? Most likely not. Because in the scenario in which they now are, that's which they are looking forward to materially to provide a framework for their answer, that seems to break down. Therefore, they now seek further, trying to articulate based on what they have heard, some of it what they claim to know, but at the same time they seek for further answers. Many a time, when all is well financially, health-wise, and all the needs, the physical needs, all those ones are easily accessible. Ask yourself, do such questions arise? Many go to sleep. Only when you find that either financially or health-wise there are challenges, only then do you find many of these questions arising. So when you consider these things, these questions, have they arisen from the observation of the deeds, or have they arisen in their thoughts, or have they arisen from their intuitions? If these questions have arisen from many an intuition, then one will find that such a personality is spiritually seeking for answers and has pushed aside the material things. Having pushed aside the material things, is seeking something further than the material. And whoever seeks diligently definitely will find. If, however, these questions arise because they themselves are seeking for material things, as soon as they acquire or as soon as answers are provided in which they are able to have these material things financially, health-wise, everything goes back to as usual. They go back to sleep. So it depends what prompts the question. The question, do they come from the spirit through intuitions? Do they come from their thoughts through simple observations? Or do they come from their observations of the material world? It is only that which is able externally to penetrate to the spirit and jolt it from its sleep to become aware. Only that is beneficial to the spirit, is helpful. Else, all others, as soon as the need for it vanishes, the personality returns to the initial state where it sleeps on and on towards the sleep of spiritual death. So with these matters, one has to view all these things from different perspectives, from a spiritual perspective, from a perspective of our thoughts, and also the perspective of our deeds. What prompts? That is the question that one must first examine. Only then would one know that, yes, this will be helpful. There are many who are so attached to football. When their team loses, they become miserable. They fall into trauma. But ask yourself, what benefit is it to the human spirit when they fall into such a state? All because their football team lost, or they are playing darts and they lost. So what one is pointing at is that which is considered, which subsequently is of vanity, and that which is considered, which is not of vanity. That which is not of vanity help to propel the human personality forward. That's in that it touches it, it enables it to awaken. So that trauma which has arisen, what does it propel the human personality to do? That is the question which could be of benefit to the human spirit rather than any trauma, which trauma could be that of football or of games or whatever.
Thanks again very much, Gregory, for your answer. I can see what you're saying, basically, that we must be this trauma, if we want to, let's say, get benefit out of it, if that's the right word, it must be a deep, you could say, inner purpose behind it, and to know something, or to, not superficial, obviously, football team, supporting a football team and losing the game, that is not going to, they say, I was going to say change your life. Well, not in the dramatic, the proper, let's say, not really in a deep way. Just less. Well, Gregory, some people treat football as their religion. So even more than the religion that others are following, they can be deeply into it like that. So for them, I can understand their trauma, but that trauma is a very shallow trauma. It's just whatever they think about it, that's their thinking, but we know that's not the real thing. In fact, as I said, with this AI, I've got a number of points, and I think I'm only going to select a few of them so that we can explore them really deep, properly from the spiritual perspective. So, like the example I gave about the widows or even the mothers of the soldiers who have been fighting and who have died, obviously because they're widow, and the widows are now left suffering. And what is it going on there? They have a grief and loss, the death of a loved one, and causing them distress. And I would call it, that is not a shallow trauma, that is something serious. So now the question, I don't think they probably are asking why this happened, because they sort of know the answer in their way. Well, maybe they can still ask why is it happening, because others are alive and others have died, and maybe they are still asking this question, why has this happened? But then I will say that one is, let's call it tragedy, and which we know it happens. I don't want to use the word normal. Some people, they suffer the tragedies and others do not. And maybe, I don't know if they will say, why is it happening to me? But there's something, Gregory, even though everybody knows we all die, and it can be accidental, it can be, let's call it, not even a natural disaster, but somehow your life is cut short in some way, not like in quotes, the natural death. And then people are feeling a loss or grief. And as you say, Gregory, it depends on our attitude, how we, you could say, respond or react, And I was thinking, and people may even have their belief, Gregory, some religious belief that, for example, I think every belief talks about life after death, but somehow that doesn't seem to comfort these relatives or families. So there's something, like they're looking still for something, Gregory. It seems that way. So they're missing something, joy, or there's something there which their own belief, or whatever it is, whether it's religious or not, somehow it doesn't comfort them. So there's an issue there. So the question I want to ask there, it's like they're looking for an answer, Gregory. So how, what help can these people have? What can help them, let me say, in people in such situation?
Your question is a pertinent question for a human personality that is deeply shaken with events, which events is unable to comprehend. For a favorable or a beneficial answer, it must be holistic. It is because these personalities, to a large extent, have really never considered what life on earth is all about. The coming to the earth, the life on earth, and what is likely to happen thereafter. Many of the teachings which have been presented to them, when considered carefully, seem to be filled with inconsistencies. Deep within them, the individual, they sense these inconsistencies and cannot resonate with them. Therefore, they withdraw. But such withdrawal is a loss for them because the need keeps rapping on their soul to ask. And in their asking, they are seeking for that which is holistic. If the human personality is presented with holistic answers, the coming into being on earth, even a picture of what it was like before the human personality incarnated. Of course, now on incarnation, the life it is supposed to lead based on the framework of its incarnation, based on the framework of life on earth, based on the framework of nature, or to be more specific, based on the framework of the laws of nature. Many consider when nature or the laws of nature are mentioned, they already know it. But as a matter of fact, it is only the externals that they have been able to observe. The external manifestation of nature. Had they reflected a bit deeper what nature is, then that effort, if the trigger has come from the spirit, then they themselves will open up a bit and nature will pour out in abundance. Why? Because they will be led through experiences where the answers that they seek, they will find. That is one of the laws of nature. And in that case, these answers which they would have experienced deep within them will be holistic. And therefore, the mysteries which which blocks them from deeper understanding, those mysteries will vanish. Then, with a clear conscience, a clear view, a clear inner view, they are able to put things together. And that fear, which fear has arisen due to either laziness or lack of knowledge, that fear, the fear forms will gradually disappear. Then the personality is free. And that is why you hear in some quarters, they will say, free at last, free at last. That expression is pertinent to the seeking human spirit who, in humility, strives to grasp the manifestations of nature, not only in the external appearance, but also what lies behind it. So the fear that has arisen that caused many a soul some disquietude, that means is alarmed. This has only arisen because there is the lack of understanding of what nature is. So, to be able to be of assistance to such, that is one of the reasons why discussions such as ours are made available again and again and again. Not only explaining life here on earth, even life before an incarnation, and most likely life after a departure. That departure in which the personality drops the physical body and moves on. As usual, one should have asked, what was it like before the human personality took on the current form, starting from as a child in the mother's womb, taking on the form, growing? Where was it? These are the questions that should have been asked. What has it come to do on it? Is it to watch football teams and go for gigs and go for music shows? And thereafter, what next? So the challenge has always been the human personality not seeking for holistic. By holistic, that which is of spirit and that which is not of spirit. That which is not of spirit, which is the physical body which we have, which is a tool, is what we use whilst we are here on earth, in flesh and blood. But thereafter, if we, in our seeking, understand what life is proper, then that spark, which spark has always been there, one cannot have the trajectory before incarnation, during an incarnation, life on it, and most probably where it needs to go. With such holistic knowledge, fear will gradually diminish, and transition, which many refer to as death, it will lose its sting.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this explanation and answer you've given. About, you could say, the mystery of death and the loss people feel, which they, if only people who are suffering grief are serious, let's say, they're serious they've lost somebody, but are they serious to find out what is going on? This shallowness of football supporting, turning it into religion. They're happy about these things, many. I know the death is a different matter, but that seriousness is also necessary in understanding life. If you're willing to put effort in other aspects more seriously than real life. So it shows when there are questions to be answered, how serious are you to discover the answer? The more serious you are, the more, let's say, help can be given to answer the question. So, but if you're not, let's say, shallow, we are being very blunt here. If you are not serious, you cannot be helped. It's as simple as that. But it must be serious. Otherwise, the answers, and that's what the Grail message says right at the beginning: earnest seekers only. Only those the answers can be received for those such people. So thank you so much, Gregory, for that. I've got so many from this, let's say, points that we are making, which we are now going to detail for each answer. And I have some more points or questions coming from these things about trauma and distress. And so I would like to just remind the listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Spiritual Discussion Program on Tuesday evenings from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? Distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And as I said, we are broadcasting on blessradio1, the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, live stream. That's for the live show, which we broadcast on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can also listen to a recording of this show the next day. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space, Grail message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows again on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, what's another point I would like to look at, about this spiritual distress, the causes of spiritual distress. That's what I asked the AI. and it came up with about 5 or 6 points, the causes. So another one is life-altering illness. A person may experience spiritual distress if they or a loved one is sick or injured, or if they are waiting for a diagnosis. So, what I want to say or ask on that one, life-altering illness. Um, it's sort of again, Gregory, talking why is it happening to me, or why is this happening, and again, like a question, um, like, is there a way to overcome this illness, or maybe how will I deal with such an illness? It's not only the you, maybe you, it could be a loved one. That's what they suggested, and so there's some worry, or I don't know what word to use, worry, stress, distress. They're calling it distress, and one is wondering, how to deal with this situation. Um, so now, Gregory, maybe I should ask, is there, let's say, when I use the word help, is there like a solution to every distress, in the sense it can be healed or overcome, or is it sometime there is point, well, we know, for example, in cancer, there can be a point of no return. You cannot heal from this, it's gone too far, let's say. So how can we cope with such type of sort of health illness?
You mentioned the case of cancer. As with every challenge, whether it's cancer, whether it's illness, whatever you care to call it, the response to this particular challenge, in order to find a resolution, the final outcome depends on when one was fully engaged in diagnosing what the problems were or what the problems are. Like in the case of cancer, if it has gone so far in which maybe a limb needs to be removed, then we will find that is the state in which things have come. Much as the personality will wish that he or she retains a particular limb. So there are points along the line in which, if the personality does not make the right decision in accordance with the laws of nature, things may go down the drain. And in that case, you will find the answers for continuity here on earth become drastic. So you will find it depends on the initial observation. There are some, or there are many, who in their lives are always on the alert, not only for themselves, but also for others. With that particular concern, many a thing which would have struck them deeply only have a feeble effect on them And because they are on the alert, they learn from it very quickly and move on. There are some who do not bother as such, and many things will strike them in such a way as to hopefully awaken them to deeper reflection. So it depends on the states of the human personality. Of course, everybody wants peace and tranquility, but these are states in which you have all for one and one for all. It is not a state where you are the only person in that scenario. For someone who is ill, does he operate on himself? He puts himself to sleep and then he operates on himself? Is that possible? When he is not conscious? So you find that the concept of one for all and all for one, that is so vital in all human endeavors. It's so vital because many a returns of one's past activities, these activities, before they precipitate and take on a form which is detrimental to the human personality, that human personality could have had an opportunity to show a very simple example. This is how this thing should be. With an innate good volition, not a calculating one. And that which would have brought sorrow will subsequently turn to joy. And in some cases, that, due to one's ignorance, which should have brought joy, may also turn to sorrow. So things are dynamic till the last second. It is the human personality who should strive to know that life itself is not rigid. It is flexible and is dynamic. And that being the case, at every moment, if one is able to consider that of all the human personalities on earth, if at any moment their thoughts, their intuitions, their physical activities are directed in such a way to be of benefit to others, the state of the earth will be changed immediately. That is not happening. That is why you find the caricatures you find here on earth, where some, their hands are not on deck, wasting away. There are some who consider that finance, the physical cash or whatever, is of paramount importance. There are some who do nothing. So things are such in a state of flux, always changing. But before something manifests physically, this manifestation, one may refer to it as a precipitation of an inner activity. that inner activity must have been first in spirit, or would have been in our thoughts. Something must have been striking your thoughts one way or the other. It is when the human personality has not awakened enough to these promptings, then and only then do you have the final precipitate that jolts the individual. For many, only when their physical body or some other things which they are engaged in suffers distress, suffers sorrow, only then will they pause to reflect. But even in that state, it is always superficial, not deep enough to allow the human personality to awake. So, what one perceives, it depends on motion. However, one thing must be very clear. Motion is a law in creation. And in this motion, there are basically two types, or any motion at all can be categorized into two types. That motion in which the end of it flows back to the beginning, or the motion in which the end of it does not flow back to the beginning. Most of these motions in which the end flows back to the beginning, the origin, the starting point, could be in spirit, could be not earthly, but so-called ethereal realm, could be in one's thoughts, depending on the species. If only the human spirit is alert in thoughts, in spirit, many of these, which could have brought terrible sorrows, could easily be averted. But no, many will not, because they are so focused on that which is very superficial. And therefore, they ignore the opportunities, the manifold opportunities which are granted to the individual to either redeem himself or to be of help to others, so as to learn the necessary lessons in order to guide not only himself but others, such that you have a scenario where there's one for all and all for one, where it will be happiness all through. So you find with the questions which arise from human personalities, they only look at one side. They never look at the other side. They do not consider that there are laws in nature. They expect arbitrariness. It is the expectation of the arbitrariness that makes many fear, forgetting that even in their birth, it wasn't arbitrary. Their lives on earth is not arbitrary. And when they have dropped the physical body, which they took on in their mother's womb at the beginning, life continues, motion continues.
Thanks again very much, Gregory, for your answer and the picture you're showing to us. Again, reminding us that there are these laws in this creation or this world, which are, you could say, are regulating and making things happen, or whatever happens in life. And it's not arbitrary, as you say, not arbitrary. But do we know what the laws are? Are we aware there's this order there? We have our own human system, which we can see, which is definitely not perfect and makes a lot of mistakes or errors. Injustices even. And we sort of, let's say, overlook it, or we just try to say, okay, we're not perfect. And somehow, in a way, when things happen to us, we're expecting some sort of, we want an answer to some situation, which of course it needs to make sense. Well, you could say that must be logical in sense, which means there must be some order there. And then when you say there's a natural law that is operating, and then you think, oh, what is the natural law? You're even so ignorant to know that there can be this natural law. So it shows how ignorant and little that we really know. And no wonder we are suffering these, not just the physical you could say mental stress, emotional stress, and whatever, all because we don't have proper understanding of this world that we live in. So thank you, Gregory. I've got yet another question from my AI friend. I'm going to call it because there's so many points it's making, which I think is very good that we explore it. So this one, again, the question I put to Mr. Google AI is spiritual cause of distress. And he came up with a number of factors. So one such factor, it says, is conflict between beliefs and life events. Spiritual distress can occur when a person's beliefs, plural, conflict with what is happening in their life. I would say that should be probably very common thing. Now, this word belief, it doesn't mean necessarily that you have some religious belief. It could be whatever belief, because some people don't even believe in religion or God and so on, but they still have a belief, whatever the word, they may use some different term for that, but concept, let's call it concepts. And then there is the real life that happens to us all. And when it doesn't, let's say, follow our expectations, the real life, then especially when it's, as I said, we have these distressful or traumatic situations, we wonder. So my question now, when there's a conflict, Gregory, between beliefs and life events, that causes distress. So now I know you mentioned those natural laws, but as I say, most of people are ignorant. We always mention them in our show. I will say most of the world, they have no clue. They mostly know only about earthly life, which is, as you have already mentioned, we need to be holistic. It's not only earthly life we need to know. So what can I ask? I want to ask, Gregory, when our concepts or views or beliefs, as it says here, are not able to relate with the real life events, um, what can we, how can I say, what should be the, what can it, well, I know we've sort of asked the question, will it lead to spiritual awakening? So let me ask that question, Gregory. When such events, traumatic and distressful events happening to us, they do not match what we expect, will it really lead to spiritual awakening, Gregory? This world that we live?
One is likely to answer absolutely not. Why? Because we have beliefs. Then we have the natural happenings. A very simple example. You will find that what many have been made to believe is that the sun goes round the earth. It's out there. You see the sun rises from the east, sets in the west. We believe it. We also see the moon, and we say, oh, the moon goes round the earth. Sometimes we don't even see it at all. And we hold on to it. Subsequently, where there are events in which the sun is involved, in which the moon is involved, we are at a loss. Because we only heard of this, we really haven't examined thoroughly, examining in thoughts, in deeds, or in spirit. We only accepted them. Some may even quote all the laws of physics say this. Strictly speaking, they still have not examined deep enough to have an unshakable framework. And that is what provides the conflict. And that is what provides the trauma, or the basis for the trauma. For in our belief, or in our disbelief to be precise, we hold certain views. Subsequently, when the evidence manifests which counter that particular view, of course we are deeply shaken, because we did not examine objectively in accordance with these creative laws. And subsequently, there will be argument upon argument. Here in this show, there is this mention again and again that there are only two categories: motion. Two categories of motion, that in which the end flows back to the beginning, and that in which the end does not flow back to the beginning. Upon this, all motion stands. For some, they may take it very seriously and keep investigating, not only physically, but also in their thoughts, but also in their intuition. In that case, the concept of time, if is used along the framework presented, becomes very clear. the concept of space also becomes very clear, but on the basis that they have examined thoroughly, such that in their further experiencing, such things which may then manifest, which run counter to their initial beliefs, such things will no more surprise them because they can already foresee the limitations of what they had held earlier. Whether they call that what they themselves did not examine at all, beliefs or church or religion, whatever they care to call it, or science. For only when that which is presented is examined thoroughly, rigorously, only then will heat be generated within the human personality in the process of examination and in seeking diligently, spiritually or non-spiritually, answers should be provided through personal experience. So the experience of one may vary from the other, but the experience should be provided. If you don't put it to the test, how would you know whether it works or not work? So the problem has always been the same. Many consider they believe and it ends there. But what they consider to be beliefs are arbitrary action, inconsistent action, activities which run counter to the creative laws. If you hold on to beliefs which run counter to the creative laws, when the creative laws now manifests in matter, you find that they do not resonate with your wrong views. And that is what initially triggers sorrow, triggers distress. Therefore, it is important that the personality examines rigorously, not because, he or she wants to become an outstanding fellow, but wishes to find out for itself where he or she came from before it was born as a baby, what its purpose is here on earth, and what is likely to happen when it has left the earth. If it doesn't investigate on its own with his intuitions, with his thoughts, and see how these things manifest physically, subsequently, then the loss is his and his alone, because he or she needed to have done this. Only when the human spirits investigate is he able to throw away the wrong views, for in investigating there will be reciprocal activities where he's able to decide that which is beneficial and that which is not beneficial to it in deeds or in thoughts or in its intuition. Many, because of their lack of use of their intuition, do not even comprehend that picture without words, which is presented to a personality anymore. Therefore, they go as if they are blinded or they are blind. They still move around, but they are asleep in spirit.
Thanks very much, Gregory, again for this answer concerning belief and real life, or let's say nature, life which happens through nature, basically, which we, it's like one is a theory, like belief, and the other one is the reality. So if that belief does not match the reality, then we shouldn't be surprised about the problems that happen from it. So then the question comes, how do we find the reality? So we need that answer which gives reality. So, and obviously, I think most of us know there's something called nature, and things happen through nature. We came through nature. Some would like to say, oh, it is God. But yes, you can say that too. But then how did it happen with God? So, but we know that nature is there, and you can say that also came from God. So, that's a tool that is working here. So we say laws of God, laws of nature, laws of creation. They're all one and the same thing, just using different words, but it gives the same thing once. But you need to know what they are. So this is the big point here. So dear listeners, we urge you, to pick up the Grail message, which gives the spiritual knowledge about life, and if anybody wishes to know more about the Grail message, then, or wish to get a copy of the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And just to remind you listeners, you're listening to Blessed Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message, by Uprushing. I've just mentioned the website where you can go to find the Grail message. So if you wish to, that's where you can go. The topic that we're discussing tonight on the show is distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? You can contact us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the homepage, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And as I said already, we are broadcasting on blessradio1, the number 1.com. Also, you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, live stream. That's for our live show, which is every Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. And you can listen to the recording of this show the next day, again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, Grail, message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? And of course, you can listen to recordings of our previous shows again on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, right now we know there's not a number of wars going on. Just let's say the big one that is in the news right now is Israel, Hezbollah, and even Iran has got involved directly now. That is a current news. Anyway, the question I want to ask on this, Gregory, you can see that let's say peace seems to be far away, and there are people with particular beliefs who oppose each other, and they're not going to sort of give in, no matter how bad the situation seems to be. So you could say they have, I don't know if you can call it the word belief or conviction. They believe they are right, or they're convinced they are right, and obviously at some point there will be an end, whichever way it goes. And it doesn't mean that both sides, what they believe is right, is actually right. They could both be wrong. So, that's what I'm trying to say, Gregory. Sometimes people fight and they're still wrong. Both of them are still wrong. Even although they believe they're right, and they are in no mood to surrender even, So in such a situation, can there really be a peace, Gregory, when they will never agree, let's say, they just have totally different view and thinking. So, Gregory, what can happen in this type of situation? And especially we've mentioned that there are these natural laws, which is the real reality, not our beliefs, which is just our ideas and views. So, Gregory, how can this, in such a conflicting situation, can there be a peace, or will it be always fighting?
First, peace is not the absence of activities. Peace is a state of activities where you have one for all and all for one. Therein, peace is defined very clearly. The present scenario you described, if that is not the case, then there is no peace. Will they strive after peace? They have to define that. So one should not expect some to strive after that which they purposely oppose, because that is just not possible. And they are in a scenario where they do as they wish to do. And because that is a scenario, which scenario violates all the simple laws of nature, of creation, the current scenario is only a precipitate of the violations. To prevent such from ever happening, the 10 Commandments were given. The first people to receive these 10 commandments were to imbibe it within themselves and live the 10 commandments. Thereafter, having received it, having lived it in the desert condition where they could mature, they were to pass it on to others. That was their tasks. Such task which any human personality that is striving to become a self-conscious human personality should be. It is that straightforward. If, however, these commandments are ignored, these commandments which are a microcosm of the creative laws of nature, of creation, of divinity, if these laws are ignored, then you can see what the results are. Those who are engaged in such conflict claim to have the Lord Almighty on their side. The laws which had been mediated to them, which will bring peace and tranquility and support for all, these are ignored. Then ask yourself, where do we go from here? Well, the human spirit must experience. Only through experience, sorrowful or not sorrowful, beneficial or not beneficial, sweet or bitter, only through this experience will the human spirit mature or remain immature. For with every of their intuition, every of their thoughts, every of their activity gross materially, there will be reciprocal activities. Here, immediately, or hereafter. Until that lesson is learned within them and they become conscious such that they won't pursue such paths anymore, that cycle will continue to go on. But the opportunities, the time granted for the human spirit is not eternal. They came into existence as human spirits, as unconscious human spirits. They are supposed to become subsequently not only conscious, but self-conscious. Self-consciousness only means that the spirit itself is not only aware of these laws, but know how to use these laws not only for its own benefit, but for the benefit of others. If, however, in their lack of understanding, they then turn the beneficial streams of power through creation into the chaotic medley, into the quagmire that they have created, they still need to redeem it. The opportunity is still granted for redemption. If, however, that is not made use of, which opportunity now comes in the understanding of the words, understanding of this living word of let there be light, which means the opportunity for human personalities to become conscious and self-conscious and to cultivate these noble qualities. If they do not make use of it, before the dissolution of that which is temporary, the world of matter, which comes into being, matures, and reverts back to its primeval substance, if they do not within that time mature to such an extent and move away towards home, that Jerusalem, which many are squabbling and fighting for, then that spiritual Jerusalem, they will not attain it, but with the dissolution of matter, they themselves, that which they have acquired so far, because it does not resonate with the activities back home in paradise, that which they have acquired so far will have to be disembarked. That means they will have to resort back, crushed, the structure which they have been permitted to cultivate, because they have cultivated it wrongly through their activities, that will be reverted back to spirit gems. Then their efforts, then the opportunity which was granted the human spirit has been in vain. For they now go back as they were, unconscious of their surroundings and also not self-conscious. They will have to start afresh. This takes millions and millions of years. Therefore, these discussions, which carried out again and again in such a simple way, is of such vital importance that should prod the human personality to seek further in order to assist the human personality to arrive at that state of self-consciousness through activities. The walk in the light of truth, which walk tells what the light is, tells what the truth is, how these are connected, the different categories, the different species, in the simplest possible terms. These have been afforded the human personality. Whether it makes use of it or not is its own affair. That which needs to be fulfilled has been fulfilled. In it, again and again, one for all and all for one.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for your answer there again. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of the show tonight on the topic of distress and trauma. Will it lead to spiritual awakening? I hope you've enjoyed the discussion. I'd like to end the show with a reading from a section of a lecture in the Grail message in the Light of Truth by Abrushin. The lecture is called Salvation Redemption, and this is in the early part of that lecture. At last, be honest with yourselves for once, and tremble at the recognition of how you have hitherto always stood before your God. Stubborn, arrogant, and discontented. Hypocritical because of your superficiality. Thinking of him only in misery and distress, so that he may help you out of the consequences of your actions. But you have never asked beforehand whether your decisions really were according to his will. What are you men before the omnipotence and the sublimity of the Lord, whom you would have rule over you just as it pleases you? With what presumption you would like to enforce here on earth those laws that come from your narrow way of thinking, and that are not in harmony with the divine laws that he placed in creation. You so often exercise your wrong volition with a cunning and evil mindedness that is inexcusable before God, harming your neighbors, thereby to gain advantage for yourselves, either in money or goods, or to acquire a reputation with those for whom you do it. All this will now fall heavily upon you with the weight of a mountain, for nothing of your wrongdoing could be cancelled in the law of reciprocal action as having been redeemed, unless you freed yourselves through the change in your volition for what is good. The barriers that still hold back the collapse of the piled up mass of reprisals are torn away. Everything rolls down irresistibly on earthly humanity, who would like to continue in spiritual indolence and arrogance in order to enforce their will, which has long since strayed far from the will of God. This, however, is the end for the dominion of all darkness on earth. It will collapse and drag down all those human beings who have sided with it. But in the midst of the thundering roar of the collapse, the word rings out. Victoriously it resounds through the lands, so that those who honestly strive for it may still save themselves. The condition implied is that each one must himself strive to recognize the word of the Lord as salvation. If he doubts and allows this last opportunity to pass without making use of it with all his strength, he will never again be in this position, and the moment for him to find redemption is forever lost. Salvation, redemption will only come to him in the word, which he must absorb, so that by living in accordance with it, he may release himself from the bonds that hold him down through misunderstanding and distorting the true concepts. Dear listeners, I've just read a section from the Grail message from the lecture Salvation Redemption. I just want to remind you again, if you would like to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful month and a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Yes, it is a new month, 1st of October today. So same from me, listeners. Wish you a happy new month and a week ahead as well. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, again 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. with another topic. Take care now. Good night and God bless. Bye.